Hey, today we're going to be talking about case statements in SQL. Case statements are really cool because they allow us to do some logic that will let us kind of, they're very similar to programming if then statements. In fact, they're very much that way, but we kind of do it conditionally based on a statement. So, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at our rental table in our Sequela database. So, if we select everything from rental, take a look, you'll notice that we have a return date. Now, let's say we just wanted to, for analytical purposes, we want to put rentals into buckets to say, oh, has the rental been returned? Now, we do have the return date, and so basically we're just going to check and say, hey, is the return date less than or equal to today? Because if it's in the future, then it hasn't been returned. And this is really nice because sometimes people just want reports to be easier. Hey, I don't want to see the return date. I just want to know, was it returned or not? Or maybe you're doing analytics and you just need to know, like, oh, was movie returned, yes or no? You want it to be into buckets, not necessarily a date. And so it's very common amongst ETL because case statements can be a big tool when transforming data, because what we're going to do is we're going to turn this return date from a date and we're going to transform it into a bucket with a yes or no, a string. So let's take our rental. We're just going to select everything for now so we can see it from rental. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add a column, and instead of just kind of throwing a column in here, we're going to start off by saying case. And in this case, we're going to say when return date is greater than, or less than, or equal to current date, then yes, it has been returned. Otherwise, no, it has not. And then finally, we want to end as, and this is where we can give our column a name. We're going to say end as return status. Let's give this a run and let's see what we get. Okay, so now you can see our return status is yes. So let's take this one step further and let's add one more. So we're going to say when return date is equal to current date. Then due today. Now technically this is a timestamp, so we probably want to piece this out, get a date out of it. There we go. Now we're going to trick this a little bit, because if you notice right now, like, because the current date is currently in 2021, and all of our return dates are in 2005. So let's get a good thing here. Let's take a look. Let's see what options we have. Let's select a distinct return date from rental. Let's descend that so we can see like the most recent. Okay. 2005 0902. So let's pretend that that's today. So we're going to substitute current date with that. 2005 0902. Make a date out of it. We're going to take and we're going to use the same thing here. All right. Now we have our return status. Let's order by return status, or return date, sorry. Sending so we can see if we got some. So now you can see that we have these films that are due supposedly today are now due today. And any that hadn't have been returned would have been no. So you can see how you can kind of transform and turn some of these things into buckets. Now, another thing that we can do, so we have our return status. Let's say we wanted to determine a price based on what the length of the rental is. So currently we kind of have a rental and we have payment, but we don't really have like a set price anywhere in our database. So let's say we wanted to kind of come up with a pricing structure for rental. So what we could do is we could do another case statement, and we're going to say when we're going to say return date. Let's get the date diff. The date diff is date diff function is how we get certain pieces of data out of our stuff here. So let's show that to you. MySQL date diff. So when we take a look here, it says date diff will return the number of days between two date values. And that's exactly what we're going to do here. We're going to say we want the date difference between our return date and our rental date. Basically what we want to do is we want to see how many days it's been. How many days did they rent it? And we can check to make sure that works. I kind of like to do that sometimes. We're going to say date diff between return date and rental date from rental. You can see we're getting some numbers, and that's exactly what we want. So we're going to say date diff till date. And basically what we're going to do here is we're going to see what the price, we're going to determine a price for all these old records. And we're going to kind of put it into buckets ourselves. So what we're going to do is we're going to say when the difference between 2 days is between, let's say 1 and, what's a common thing here? Let's say 1 and 3. Then we're going to set the price as, let's say $3. Now let's test that. I always like to test as we go here. So we're getting null price, but things are working. In fact, we could put an else in there. So let's keep going. So then we're going to say the same thing. We're going to say, and I'm going to show you a little shortcut here because, we could type all this out for each when. But the other thing we can do, like this. Now this only works if you are using exact comparison operators. So this would work for some of this stuff, but not for the between operator. Let's see, let's do 4 and 6, then $5 when rental date is between 7 and 10. Say we charge them a lot because they're taking our movies away. And then let's say date diff, return date, rental date is greater than 10 and $15. So now we can see some of our pricing. Now most of these things are $10, but we have a few around there in the $5 range, not very many in the $3 range. But now we have a price. Now we can go a little further, and we could say we could add some various things to here. Um, we can embed case statements within it. So let's say if our date diff rental is bigger, let's say if they take it for longer than 10 days, we're going to start charging them per day out above the 10 days. So we're at $10. So let's embed a case statement in here. We're going to say case when, let's see here. Format this right. So what we're going to do, let's add a case statement. So if there's more than 10, let's say for the first 2 days after, say when it's equal to, then let's take the you can see how we can embed logic within this. So if it's greater than 10, then we're going to say, hey, if it's 12 days, let's say if it's let's say if it's equal to 12, or we want to do some logic here. If we're saying it's less than or equal to 12, then we want the number of days times, say times it by 2. Yeah, so let's say if they go over 10 days, we're going to take the number of days times 2 up to 12. Let's say up to 15. And then let's say date diff return date rental date is greater than 15. Then let's say we might want to charge the price of a movie. We're already at $20. Let's just charge them $30. Now this is a embedded case statement, but when it does the then, it kind of kicks it back to here. So it's still going to end as price. So let's go ahead and run this. Oops, and we did something weird here. Let's take a look. Different day, return date. Take a look here. I bet you it's at this. Let's try that again. Might just not like our math here. Case. Oh. We're missing a then clause. Let's try that again. There we go. So now let's see if we have any big ones. So let's order by, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Order by 9. It looks like somewhere we're missing a piece of logic. Nope, it looks like we don't have any over 10, which is unfortunate, but you can write lots of logic this way. In fact, you can get really complex. You can do a lot of really cool things, a lot of really cool transformations, a lot of various things. So that's the case statement in a nutshell. You can use it similar to like if you've been used to programming. Basically, it's like an if. So you say like, if return date is less than this date, then do something or return a value. Really, it's about returning a value. If you want it to do something more, Like in this case, when we say, well, if the date diff between the return date and the rental date is greater than 10, then do this additional logic. So you can kind of build those and nest them and keep going as you go along. So anyways, I hope that helps you get an idea about how these case statements work. Good luck using them.